My girlfriend cried for money while flirting with strangers online, so I sent screenshots to her mom and left her with nothing but excuses. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and I've always considered myself pretty cautious when it comes to relationships. I've had my share of heartbreaks, but I like to think I learned from them. When I met her, I honestly thought she was different. She had this laugh that felt genuine, and her messages always came at the right moment, like she knew exactly when I needed a smile. I let my guard down faster than I ever should have, and for a while, everything felt effortless, like the universe had finally handed me someone I could trust. We met at a mutual friend's small get-together. She wasn't flashy, just quiet, with this subtle charm that made people lean in to listen. I remember thinking, finally, someone who isn't playing games. I spent that night feeling a spark I hadn't felt in years. Her hand brushed mine accidentally, or maybe intentionally. I can't tell now, and I felt this rush of adrenaline, the kind that makes you believe in fate. In the first few weeks, she was attentive in ways I didn't know I'd been craving. She remembered small details about my life, my favorite coffee, the name of my childhood dog, even the songs I'd hum in the shower. I thought that level of care was rare. I told myself, I've finally found someone who gets me. But even then, subtle things started creeping in. Small inconsistencies, texts that disappeared too quickly, moments when her phone would buzz and she'd suddenly look distant. I pushed it aside, chalked it up to paranoia. I wanted to believe the best. After all, who notices the tiny cracks when the rest of the building feels so perfect? And yet, there was this niggling feeling at the back of my mind, whispering that something was off. I just didn't know how bad it was about to get. It started small, almost laughably insignificant at first. I noticed her phone lighting up late at night, and she'd quickly lock the screen or turn it face down when I glanced over. At first I brushed it off. Maybe she was tired, or maybe it was work. But over time, those little moments started stacking like cracks in a wall. The unease was there, nagging at me, but I didn't want to admit it. I wanted to trust her. I really did. One evening, I asked casually, "Hey, you've been texting a lot tonight. Everything okay?" She gave me that effortless smile, the one that could melt tension away, and replied, "Yeah, just a friend. Don't worry about it." But the way she said it felt rehearsed, almost defensive. I felt a flicker of doubt, but I let it slide. A few days later, I saw a notification pop up on her tablet while she was in the shower. It was a message preview, just a glimpse, but it wasn't from a friend. There were emojis, playful flirtation. It made my stomach twist. I didn't confront her immediately. I sat there, my heart pounding, trying to convince myself I was reading too much into it. But the tension grew. I started noticing patterns. She'd disappear for hours without explanation. Her laugh in private texts seemed more intimate than normal, and her phone was always close, never leaving her side. My mind started running through worst-case scenarios, every possibility that made me uncomfortable. And the more I questioned, the more she seemed to dodge the questions, laugh them off, or change the subject with that sly little grin. I began to feel trapped in my own head, second-guessing my instincts. Was I being paranoid, or was there something real happening behind my back? The seed of suspicion had been planted, and now it was growing faster than I could ignore. And that night, as I watched her phone buzz again while she was in the other room, I realized this wasn't going away. Something bigger was coming, and I had no idea just how messy it would get. It happened on a lazy Sunday afternoon. She had left her tablet on the couch while she went to make coffee, and curiosity gnawed at me. I told myself I wouldn't look, that I was crossing a line, but I couldn't resist. Just one peek. And that one peek changed everything. The screen lit up with messages that were too flirtatious, far beyond innocent conversation. Playful emojis, suggestive lines, comments that made my stomach drop. She was talking to multiple strangers like they were the only ones who mattered, and every word was a dagger aimed straight at my chest. I felt this sharp physical pain, like someone had twisted my heart. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through conversation after conversation, realizing she'd been hiding this for weeks, maybe months. I confronted her that evening. "Why are you texting all these people like that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She laughed nervously, brushing it off. "It's nothing. Just chatting. You worry too much. But I knew the difference between innocent chat and this. Her eyes darted away a little too quickly, a little too guilty. I wanted to scream, to storm out, but I stayed, trying to process the betrayal. My mind raced. How could someone I trusted do this? I remembered every small lie, every secretive glance, every time she'd shielded her phone. All of it made sense now, yet it hurt more than I could put into words. The room felt heavy, like the air itself was pressing down on me. I could hear the faint hum of the fridge, the clink of her coffee cup, every sound magnified by my shock. My trust had been shattered, and I realized something terrifying. I was just at the beginning. She tried to laugh it off again, but the warmth was gone from her voice. And deep down, I knew this was only the first act of something much bigger, something that would strip away every illusion I had about us. The question that hung between us, unspoken but loud, was this: how far would this betrayal go? A few days after the confrontation, I thought maybe we could patch things up, or at least get some honesty out of her. I was wrong. That night, she sat across from me on the couch, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she said, barely holding back sobs. "I'm struggling so much. Bills, rent. I just need a little help." My heart twisted. Part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but another part, the part that had already been burned, was screaming at me to see through it. As she cried, her phone buzzed repeatedly. I saw it light up with messages from strangers, playful emojis flashing on the screen. She wiped her tears, smiled faintly, and typed back. I couldn't believe it. She was crying for sympathy while flirting with people online at the same time. Every fiber in me wanted to shout, to shake her and say, "How can you do this?" But I didn't. I sat there, frozen, trying to understand how someone could manipulate emotions so seamlessly. I need help, she whispered again, reaching for my hand. My hand recoiled slightly. I could feel the weight of the deceit pressing down on me. This isn't just cheating. It's emotional warfare, I realized. Her tears weren't genuine. They were a weapon, a shield to cover up the betrayal. I asked, my voice tight with barely contained anger. "Why are you texting them while crying about me?" Her smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. Classic deflection. Classic gaslighting. The apartment felt suffocating. I could hear the hum of the heater, the faint dripping of water from the sink, each sound magnified by the tension in the room. My mind raced with disbelief and hurt. And yet, as I stared at her, pretending to cry, pretending to be helpless, I realized the storm was only getting worse. I didn't know it yet, but that night marked the turning point. The moment I saw the full extent of her manipulation, and the beginning of the plan I would have to enact to protect myself. I couldn't let it go any longer. I needed answers, real answers, and not the crocodile tears she'd been using to pull me in. That evening I sat her down, trying to keep my voice steady, though inside I was boiling. "We need to talk." I saw the messages. "I saw everything," I said, showing her a fraction of the screenshots I'd been quietly collecting. She froze, eyes wide for a moment, and then smiled that same disarming smile. "Messages? What messages?" "You're imagining things," she said, her voice soft, almost soothing. My stomach turned. Classic gaslighting, I thought. She was trying to make me doubt my own eyes, my own instincts. I'm not imagining anything. "You've been flirting, texting strangers while asking me for money and sympathy," I said, my hands trembling. She leaned back, sighed, and shook her head. "You're so dramatic. You always overreact." "I can't believe you're accusing me of this," she replied, her tone mixing incredulity with faint amusement. The room felt heavy, almost oppressive. The hum of the ceiling fan, the distant sound of cars outside, the faint aroma of the dinner she'd left cooking, all of it seemed muted compared to the pounding of my own heart. I felt trapped in a loop of disbelief and rage. I tried again, desperation creeping into my voice. "Look at me. I have screenshots. I know what you're doing. Stop lying." She tilted her head, eyes glinting with calculated calm. "Screenshots? That doesn't prove anything." "You don't even understand me," she said. Her words were carefully chosen, meant to confuse, to make me question my reality. And yet, beneath the anger and hurt, a deeper realization hit me. This wasn't just flirting. This was manipulation on a level I hadn't seen before. She wasn't just breaking trust. She was actively trying to control how I perceived the situation, to make me feel guilty while she continued doing exactly what she wanted. I left the room that night with my chest tight, my mind spinning. I knew this confrontation had changed everything, but I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. After that confrontation, I couldn't just sit there anymore. I needed proof, something tangible I could hold on to when my mind started doubting itself. Over the next few days, I started documenting everything: screenshots, timestamps, her exact words, every little exchange that screamed deceit. Each screenshot was like another brick in the wall of betrayal, and every time I saw them, my chest tightened. It wasn't just casual flirting anymore. It was deliberate. The way she worded messages, the emojis, the inside jokes with people I didn't even know. Everything pointed to the same pattern. My anger flared, but beneath it, there was a strange sense of relief. I had evidence. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't crazy. One night, while she was asleep, I sat on the couch with my laptop, scrolling through weeks of messages. There it all was. Her asking strangers for attention, little compliments that were mine to give, stolen laughs that used to belong to me. My hands were shaking. I felt rage, disbelief, and a deep, sinking sadness all at once. I thought back to all the times I'd defended her, rationalized her behavior, told myself it was nothing, that she was just flirty and harmless. Every excuse I'd made now seemed absurd. The reality was raw, ugly, and undeniable. By the time I finished, I had folders organized, everything labeled. There were hundreds of screenshots, each one a dagger confirming what I already suspected but didn't fully want to admit. And as I stared at the screen, a sick realization hit me. This wasn't just about our relationship. She had no boundaries, no shame, and no intention of stopping. And then, as the laptop hummed in the quiet apartment, I felt the first real flicker of a plan forming in my mind, something that would make her pay, but also protect me. I didn't know how it would unfold yet, but I knew one thing for certain. Things were about to get a lot worse before they got better. Just when I thought I had a handle on things, the next revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. One evening, I noticed a pattern in the messages. Certain accounts she'd been interacting with repeatedly. Curiosity got the better of me. I dug deeper, scrolling through hidden chats, and what I found made my blood run cold. She wasn't just flirting for fun. She was asking for money, regularly, methodically, almost like a side hustle. I couldn't believe it. My mind went numb as I scrolled through conversations where she subtly begged for money while keeping the tone casual and playful. "I just don't know how I'll pay for this." "You've always been so kind," one message read, paired with a wink emoji. Another said, "You're literally the only one who can help me out," followed by a flirty comment. She was crying to me about her struggles, yet asking strangers online for cash at the same time. The sheer audacity of it left me shaking. I confronted her again, holding up the screen with proof. "What the hell is this? You've been asking strangers for money while crying to me?" I demanded, my voice barely containing the rage. She paused, blinked rapidly, and then leaned back with that infuriatingly calm smile. I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered. She tried to twist it, claiming I was overreacting, imagining things or being dramatic. But the screenshots didn't lie. My stomach sank. I felt humiliated and betrayed on a scale I hadn't imagined possible. Every ounce of trust, every moment of vulnerability I'd shared with her, now felt like a cruel joke. The person I thought I knew, the girl I had defended and loved, had been playing a double game the entire time. The apartment felt suffocating as I sank onto the couch, phone in hand, trying to process the full weight of the betrayal. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a cheating problem. It was manipulation, exploitation, and a complete disregard for me, for us. I knew I had to make a decision, but I also knew the fallout was going to be explosive. I spent that night staring at the ceiling, replaying every memory, every lie, every flirty message she'd sent to strangers, while pretending to cry in my arms. My chest ached with a mixture of anger and disbelief. I knew I couldn't stay passive anymore. Something had to change, and it had to be decisive. This wasn't just about catching her in lies. It was about protecting myself and finally reclaiming the dignity she had been trampling on. By morning, a plan had begun to form in my mind. I would confront her with everything, but this time I wouldn't rely on her words or excuses. I would involve her mom, someone who could see the truth without her manipulations clouding the picture. I felt a mixture of dread and satisfaction at the thought. Dread because I didn't know how explosive the confrontation would be, and satisfaction because finally someone outside this web of lies would know the truth. I organized the evidence meticulously. Screenshots were saved, timestamps highlighted, conversations categorized. Each folder was like a map of betrayal, laying bare her double life. The more I looked at them, the colder and sharper my resolve became. I knew once I sent them, there would be no turning back. I rehearsed what I would say to her mom. Calm, factual, unemotional. No yelling, no pleading, just truth. I imagined her excuses, the denial, the gaslighting, and I felt ready for it. For the first time, I felt in control of a situation that had been spiraling out of my hands for weeks. And yet, there was that gnawing unease, because while I felt ready, I couldn't predict her reaction. She had a way of twisting situations, of turning everything around to make me feel guilty. But this time I promised myself there would be no sympathy, no compromise, no more falling for manipulations. As I double-checked the last screenshots, my phone buzzing quietly beside me, I realized the confrontation was imminent. The storm was coming, and I was the one steering it. I finally hit send. Every screenshot, every flirty message, every manipulative plea for money, all of it went to her mom in one carefully composed message. My hands were trembling as I pressed the button. Part of me expected her mom to dismiss it, to brush it off like I had been trying to do for weeks. But the reply came almost instantly, short, shocked, but clearly shaken. She's been doing this? Her mom wrote. I could feel the weight of vindication in those few words, but also the tension. I could hear her phone buzzing in the other room, see her moving around nervously, but she didn't know I'd done it yet. When I confronted her afterward, the change in her demeanor was immediate. Her confident smirk vanished, replaced with wide eyes and frantic gestures. "Mom, I can explain," she stammered, her voice cracking. But the screenshots didn't lie. Every excuse she threw out, every half-hearted apology, only dug the hole deeper. She flailed, tried to pivot blame, even attempted to make me feel guilty. But I was done. The armor of evidence I had built left her no room to manipulate. Her mom called me moments later, voice tight but firm. "I can't believe she did this." "I'm disappointed," she said. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger wash over me. Relief that someone else finally understood the depth of her betrayal. Anger that it had gone this far in the first place. The room felt stifling as I watched her try desperately to recover. She waved her arms, tried to make the situation about her feelings, but I couldn't focus on her anymore. I could only think about the weeks, the months of being manipulated, belittled, and played for someone else's amusement. And yet, there was something intoxicating in the power shift. For the first time, I felt in control. For the first time, she was the one panicking, apologizing, and realizing the consequences of her actions were real. But as I turned away from the scene, I knew this confrontation was only the beginning. What she would do next was anyone's guess, and I had no intention of letting her hurt me again. The day I decided to walk away, I felt a strange mix of liberation and guilt. I'd spent months questioning myself, rationalizing her behavior, hoping for change, but there was none. I knew there would be no apology heartfelt enough, no excuse clever enough that could undo the damage she had caused. I had to leave, and I had to leave completely. I remember sitting across from her one last time, her eyes wide, a mixture of panic and pleading in them. "Please, just listen. I can explain everything," she said, voice trembling. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I've listened enough. I've seen enough." "I'm done," I said, my voice calm but firm. Every word was deliberate. I wasn't going to argue, negotiate, or console. I was done being her emotional punching bag. She tried everything, the guilt trips, the crocodile tears, the desperate promises. "I love you, you know that, right?" she whispered. But love doesn't look like lying, manipulating, or exploiting someone for attention and money. I felt no remorse in my decision. The air between us was thick, almost suffocating, but I refused to let her distort reality any longer. Packing my things felt surreal. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and her perfume, reminders of the life I thought we had. Each item I put in my bag, the hoodie she loved, the books we shared, felt like shedding a layer of the past, taking back my sense of self piece by piece. When I finally walked out, I left the apartment door shut behind me, leaving her with nothing but the consequences of her actions. The finality of it hit both of us. I had moved on, emotionally and physically, and she had nowhere to hide behind excuses. The streets were cold, the air crisp, but I felt a warmth inside, a quiet satisfaction that I had reclaimed my power. Yet, as I looked back one last time, I knew this story wasn't over. Not for her, and not for the lessons I was about to carry forward. The first few days after leaving her were a whirlwind of emotions. Relief, anger, sadness, and disbelief collided in my chest, making it hard to sleep or eat. I kept replaying everything in my mind: the flirting, the manipulation, the tears for sympathy while she charmed strangers online. Part of me wanted to cry for the time I'd wasted, but another part felt this growing sense of liberation I hadn't experienced in years. Friends noticed the change. They asked how I was holding up, and I tried to answer honestly without giving away all the details. "I'm better," I'd say, though the word felt insufficient. Better, yes, because I was finally free from the emotional manipulation that had consumed me. But I also knew the scars wouldn't disappear overnight. I had to learn to trust myself again, to rebuild boundaries I'd let her trample. I spent hours reflecting on what had gone wrong. How did I let someone treat me like that for so long? I realized I had ignored red flags, small inconsistencies, odd behaviors, moments of secrecy, because I wanted to believe in her, in us. And that was the lesson. Trust is a gift, not a shield against deception. Each day, I deleted the lingering messages, turned off notifications, and created small rituals to reclaim my space. Long walks, journaling, even just sitting in silence, breathing through the rage and sadness. I began to understand that this wasn't just a breakup. It was a liberation from manipulation, from someone who never valued me as I deserved. And yet, there was still that lingering curiosity, the temptation to check if she had changed, if she'd realized the damage she caused. I resisted it, knowing that any contact would only reopen wounds. The past was done, the confrontation complete, and the power balance had shifted. But even as I felt stronger, I couldn't shake one thought. The final act of closure, the real payoff, was still ahead. I just had to be patient and wait for it to unfold. A few weeks later, the final piece fell into place. I didn't expect it, and yet it was perfect in its poetic justice. Her mom had taken action quietly, confronting her in ways I hadn't imagined. She had to face the reality of her actions with someone who couldn't be manipulated or gaslit. Word spread among mutual friends, and I started hearing bits and pieces, how her schemes had come to light, how the same strangers she flirted with had learned the truth. The power dynamic had shifted completely. I remember walking down the street one evening, my headphones on, feeling lighter than I had in months. No anxiety, no tension, no pretending. The betrayal had been raw, yes, but I had survived it and come out stronger. I thought about the manipulation, the tears, the lies, and I realized none of it could touch me anymore. I was free from her chaos. Then came the unexpected twist. I ran into one of the people she had tried to manipulate online, someone she'd asked for money while pretending to struggle with me. Instead of confrontation or shame, they thanked me for revealing the truth, for protecting them from the same games I had endured. It was ironic, almost surreal. She had spent so much time weaving lies, and in the end, her web ensnared only herself. I smiled, feeling a calm satisfaction unlike any I'd known during the months of betrayal. The anger had cooled, replaced by clarity. I hadn't just survived. I had taken control, set boundaries, and reclaimed my dignity. No excuses, no apologies, no more manipulation. Just peace and empowerment. Looking back, I understand the lessons clearly now. Trust your instincts. Document the truth. Protect yourself. And when the time comes, don't be afraid to walk away from someone who can't value you. As I walked past her old apartment that night, lights flickering in the windows, I didn't feel bitterness or longing. I felt closure. And for the first time in a long time, I felt fully, unequivocally free.